June summit is a successful one, the regime's security will be guaranteed, and the denuclearization process is something that the two sides can't work out. News Center begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Che. May 18, 1980, ordinary citizens in Gwangju died while standing up against an oppressive government. Koreans remember the fallen heroes, as the democratic nation we see today may not exist without them. Park Ji-won starts us off with a special ceremony held in the City of Lights to honor those who gave their lives to fuel the necessary change.
The government-organized ceremony for the 38th anniversary of the May 18th Democratic Movement was held Friday morning at the May 18th National Cemetery in Gwangju. Some 5,000 participants, including bereaved family members of the victims, citizens, students, and politicians, attended the event. In his speech, Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon vowed that the government will work hard to find the truth about what happened, much of which, such as who first gave the order to open fire on civilians, are still not known.
I believe when the Special Truth Committee on the Democratic Movement, formed according to a special act on May 18th enacted during the Moon administration, is launched in September, the committee will clearly reveal all the truth without any restrictions or any doubts.
The Prime Minister also called the democratic movement the victory of justice, saying that Korea will always remember the sacrifices of Gwangju that contributed to the nation's democracy. Although never confirmed, it is widely thought that there are some 5,000 victims of the massacre, including over 160 deaths, hundreds of others missing, and thousands injured. Victims and bereaved family members still haven't gotten over the grief.
I witnessed the scene even though I was young. I saw dead bodies, crying family members, so every year the scene comes up as a trauma.
My friends were shot many times, bleeding to death. I feel ashamed in front of all those martyrs.
Foreign participants also say South Korea's pro-democracy movement has become an inspiration to their countries too.
The spirit of Gwangju is from the minimum to the ultimate. That is, for example, housewives, they made food for those who fight. Those who made sacrifice in many ways, like giving blood. But the ultimatum is to give lives. This is great. This is something that we need to learn.
What is also notable is that wives of a late foreign journalists and pastors who recorded the massacre 38 years ago, either with video cameras or through photographs, to let the rest of the world to know the truth about what happened in Gwangju, were also present at the ceremony, remembering all those who fought for a just and democratic society. The actions of the brave Gwangju citizens who stood up against the injustices of the military dictatorship, even sacrificing their own lives for the cause, eventually led to the end of the military regimes and the start of true democracy in Korea. Park Ji-won, Arirang News, Gwangju.
President Moon Jae-in promised to find the truth behind the repression of the May 18th movement and vowed to guarantee women's rights. Through his Facebook account, he expressed deep regret over the Jong-un administration's brutality, including a sexual assault of a female high school student by the military during that day in Gwangju. The Liberal leader plans to restart true history by embracing women's rights, by forming a joint investigation group into the events of May 1980 with the Defense Ministry, Gender Equality Ministry, and National Human Rights Commission to restore the dignity of the victims. Bold demonstrations by citizens speaking up against a dictator and the shocking military response against peaceful protesters. Still today, more details of what really went on continues to come to light. Our Korea-U.S. takes a look back at that important turning point in Korean history.
Thousands of people took to the streets on May 18, 1980, in the southwestern Korean city of Gwangju. This was after then-President Jong-un seized power in a military coup and took suppressive measures, such as banning political activities and imposing martial law. Protesters were beaten and fired upon by government troops during the military crackdown. This left an unknown number of people dead and thousands more wounded. Although the movement was quelled on May 27, 1980, a look back in history has proven that it was a victory, not a defeat, as it paved the way for later movements in the 1980s that eventually brought democracy to the country. Last year, South Korean President Moon Jae-in vowed to carry on its legacy by reopening the probe into possible crimes that may have been committed by the troops.
완전한 진상규명은 결코 진보와 보수의 문제가 아닙니다. 상식과 정의의 문제입니다. 우리 국민 모두가 함께 가꾸어야 할 민주주의의 가치를 보존하는 일입니다.
Recently, a rare video capturing the scenes of the democratic movement was disclosed to the public. A private collector notified the May 18 archives of the video's existence in December last year, and the archives purchased it in March. The new video shows soldiers implementing martial law and wounded citizens at local hospitals. The footage will be screened at the archive until May 30th to remind citizens of a pivotal moment in the country's modern history that continues to provide inspiration for freedom and human rights. 고른이 아리랑 뉴스.
President Moon Jae-in is flying to Washington again next week. With all the rapid development and abrupt changes as we build up to another historic summit, it's good to know the sit-down between the Liberal leader and his American counterpart is now fixed. Cha Sang-mi outlines what to expect from that meeting.
The Blue House has revealed President Moon Jae-in's Washington summit schedule for next week. At a press briefing on Friday, the Blue House National Security Office Deputy Director announced that the president is to arrive in Washington on Monday evening local time. He will then spend the night at the Blair House, an official VIP guest house at the White House. The next morning, Moon is scheduled to meet with Washington's key figures in charge of foreign and security policies. As for the most anticipated part of his trip, a sit-down with Trump, the Blue House confirmed that the meeting will be just between the two leaders, with no attendees other than the interpreters. After the one-on-one, Moon and Trump will move to an expanded meeting over a business lunch. After his meetings with Trump, President Moon will visit the Korean legation in Washington to commemorate the 130th anniversary of its opening and the 136th anniversary of the 1882 signing of the United States-Korea Treaty of Peace. Moon will touch down back in Korea early Thursday, Korean time. The NSC Deputy Director expressed his wish for a successful Seoul-Washington summit.
We hope President Moon's visit this time will serve as a chance to strengthen the friendship and ties between the heads of South Korea and the U.S. and develop the two countries' alliance and partnership for the future.
Over the past year, the two leaders have kept close touch, holding 4 summits and 11 phone conversations. This summit is the 5th meeting between South Korea and the U.S. since President Moon came to office. Cha Sang-mi, Arirang News.
And when the two meet and sit down for talks, President Moon will have his sights fixed on one agenda, and their session will not be attended by anyone else aside from the interpreters. Our Chief Cheong-won correspondent Moon Gun-young turns the spotlight on how the South Korean leader will play the role of mediator to help bridge the gap between Washington and Pyongyang.
Presidents Moon and Trump will hold a one-on-one without anyone else in attendance at around noon.
This exclusive face-to-face between the two leaders, attended only by their interpreters, is the very purpose and will be the highlight of South Korean President Moon Jae-in's one-night trip to the U.S. This coming just 3 weeks before U.S. President Donald Trump is set to go to what no other sitting U.S. president has ever done before, meet face-to-face with the leader of North Korea to negotiate the terms for Kim Jong-un to give up his nuclear capability. A senior Blue House official speaking under the condition of anonymity said the Moon-Trump exclusive one-on-one, the first of its kind, was arranged as both leaders felt the current situation called for a sincere and candid dialogue at the highest level. It's clear that the South Korean president will try to use this meeting with his U.S. counterpart to mediate and clear doubts between Mr. Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
The leaders will also discuss ways to guarantee North Korea a bright future when the North carries out complete denuclearization.
Note when it carries out denuclearization. So the key issue at hand is how do we get North Korea's Kim Jong-un to completely, verifiably, irreversibly denuclearize? What needs to be discussed between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump when they meet next month in order for the denuclearization process to be a success? What kind of a denuclearization roadmap would get both the U.S. and North Korean leader moving? Can the growing gap between the two be narrowed in time for the two to show up at the negotiation table next month? Whether the flurry of diplomatic activity in the last couple of months will turn out to be nothing or actually precipitate to something substantial, leading to a different future for the Korean Peninsula, at least for now, seem to depend on whether South Korean President Moon Jae-in proves to be capable of playing the competent mediator role. Moon Gon-young, Arirang News, The Blue House.
More developments following North Korea's condemnation of the Joint Seoul-Washington Air Force drills. The Unification Ministry revealed today that Pyongyang is not accepting the list of South Korean reporters who will be covering the dismantling of the Punggye-ri nuclear test site next week. The regime initially announced it would invite journalists from 5 countries, including South Korea, to witness the process. But now it remains unclear how things could unfold from here on. There may be no more inter-Korean dialogue unless Seoul stops its joint air combat drills with Washington. That's the warning from the regime, which continues to describe the exercise as a rehearsal for invasion. Park Hee-jun help us dissect the possible motive behind this move.
North Korea has threatened to permanently halt inter-Korean discussions unless South Korea stops its ongoing Max Thunder Air Force exercise with the U.S., which has gotten underway since May 11th. Pyongyang state media on Thursday quoted Lee Sun-kwon, North Korea's top negotiator for handling inter-Korean affairs, who condemned South Korea for going forward with the military drills with the U.S. Calling the Seoul government ignorant and incompetent, he said, unless a serious situation which led to the cancellation of this week's inter-Korean talks is settled, it will never be easy to sit face-to-face again with the current South Korean administration. North Korea also slammed the South Korean parliament for holding talks with the United States, calling them human scumbags, but it did not reveal any names in particular. Experts say North Korea's remarks may be a message directed at the United States.
The fact that they reassert or complain about the joint military exercise, which is a convenient topic and something that has been expected, I think that sends a message to Washington that they are trying to make this as one of the agendas on the table to secure more chips, so to speak.
Pyongyang may also be posturing to boost its negotiating power in the upcoming talks between North Korea and the United States. Regarding this matter, Seoul's Unification Ministry said the government expects Pyongyang to abide by their recent summit agreement and that they will continue to strive for peace on the Korean Peninsula. Meanwhile, South Korea's presidential office only said that it will continue to monitor the situation. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
The U.S. tried to provide peace of mind to North Korea by emphasizing they're not seeking a Libyan denuclearization approach. For now, Washington insists a different model will be used with the regime. Lee Jae-won turned to some experts for their analysis of what this new method could be.
President Trump officially refuted speculation that the U.S. plans to use the Libya model on North Korea, where it's widely understood that Pyongyang would have to fully denuclearize before receiving any rewards. This has led to questions over what approach Washington does plan to take towards the North's denuclearization. Trump officially addressed what is seen as North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's major concern on Thursday, saying that Kim will be running his regime and getting protections that will be very strong under the condition that their summit in June is successful. And by saying how Kim will be very, very happy with the deal, Trump hinted on the possibility that the U.S. could be flexible and that the process of denuclearization could be done progressively, just as the North wants.
President Trump promised to guarantee the security of the regime while emphasizing North Korea's nuclear disarmament. The two sides will likely, in the big picture, agree on denuclearization and a security guarantee, and then work on setting a detailed roadmap to implement the goal in a progressive way.
Professor Yang added that the key point then is how much the leaders are willing to give and take.
It's not going to be easy negotiating the denuclearization steps with a security guarantee. How the denuclearization process of freezing, disabling, and dismantling would be matched up with a security guarantee. For instance, setting up a liaison office and building a U.S. embassy in Pyongyang is something the two leaders will have to discuss during their summit.
And on top of linking the security guarantee with denuclearization, President Trump may offer economic benefits to increase the attractiveness of his model.
His country would be very rich. His people are tremendously industrious. If you look at South Korea, this would be really a South Korean model in terms of their industry, in terms of what they do.
But with North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister rebuking the U.S. idea of compensating Pyongyang financially for abandoning its nuclear weapons in a statement on Wednesday, whether or not this new model of denuclearization would be attractive to the North will have to be seen. 이지원, Arirang News.
Washington confirmed there won't be any downsizing of American troops stationed here in South Korea. The decision was announced in a meeting to prepare for the signing of the 10th Special Measures Agreement. It should dispel such rumors that surfaced after the reports on the matter by the New York Times on May 4th. Seoul's Foreign Ministry explained the result of the third meeting for the SMA. Washington has no plans to change the size or character of the U.S. forces Korea, that instead America's security pledges to the peninsula was reaffirmed. Over at the National Assembly, all eyes are on whether the members will be voting on the extra budget and on a bill calling for a special probe into an online opinion rigging scandal. Less than an hour remains before the scheduled plenary session at 9 p.m. local time. But at the moment, there's a high chance that it will be delayed, as rival parties have failed to narrow their differences despite hours of talks earlier today. On the special probe, lawmakers are at odds over the duration and the scope of the investigation. As for the government's proposed bill, the ruling party wants it passed as soon as possible to boost the ailing job market. But the main opposition is calling for a cut, arguing that some areas are unrelated to job creation. Rival parties agreed to vote on both issues today as part of a compromise reached earlier this week to end the over 40-day standstill at Parliament. China greenlights the sale of a majority stake in Toshiba's microchip business to a consortium led by a U.S. investment firm. The move is seen as a significant peace offering to the Trump administration. Kim Hye-sung zooms in on what could be a welcome turnaround in the trade spat between the two superpowers.
Toshiba said Thursday it has received regulatory approval from China for the sale of its memory chip business to a consortium led by U.S. investment firm Bain Capital. The Japanese electronics company said the $18 billion deal is expected to be completed on June 1st, now that it has gained antitrust approval from all necessary regulators. Bain Capital, in a statement, welcomed the approval from China and said the transaction will help ensure a competitive global semiconductor market and respond to fast-changing demands. Bain Capital leads a group of investors including Apple, Dell Technologies, and South Korean semiconductor company SK Hynix. Beijing's antitrust approval was needed because China is the biggest market for the chips. The deal, which was first announced in September last year, received clearance less than 2 weeks before a deadline on the decision and as Chinese negotiators hold trade talks with the U.S. Toshiba, which invented NAND chip technology, put its chip business up for sale after losing billions of dollars from its push into nuclear energy. South Korea's SK Hynix is expected to secure a stake of up to 15% by investing $3.7 billion into the consortium deal. Currently, SK Hynix is the world's number 4 in NAND flash memory chips global market share, and the deal is expected to further boost its position in the global chip business. Kim Hye-sung, Arirang News.
Elsewhere around the world, Hawaii's Kilauea Volcano shot ash plumes nearly 9 kilometers into the air, putting nearby residents at risk. So far, it is showing no signs of calming down, with more explosions expected. Noaram has the latest.
Kilauea started spewing lava about 2 weeks ago and has been accompanied by a series of earthquakes. Scientists have been warning that a powerful eruption was imminent. Though it was short-lived, they said Thursday's explosion could be the first of a violent string of explosions in the crater. The last time Kilauea fired a series of steam-driven explosions was back in 1924.
In my mind, what we saw today, this cloud up to 30,000 feet above sea level, that's consistent with what we were expecting. And so, we could expect similar events to happen in the future as these kind of interactions between the groundwater and the lava continue. We're still watching things real closely. We may have additional larger events, more powerful events, kind of like what we saw earlier this morning.
Residents living near Kilauea have been told to stay indoors to avoid the ash, and pilots are being advised to avoid the area for fear of damage to engines. The 9-kilometer-high ash plume scrapes just under the cruising altitude of a jetliner. Scientists at the U.S. Geological Survey say the ash plume is expected to just blanket the nearby area, as it was a high explosion and not a wide one. But they do warn that the wind could carry it to as far as Higo, the largest city in Big Island. People are also being warned not to drive until visibility improves. The ash and hot lava, which has already wrecked about a couple dozen homes, are not the only problems. A spike of toxic sulfur dioxide gas emanating from more than 20 fissures is also posing a threat. Noaram, Arirang News.
The latest work of legendary director Lee Chang-dong could become the first Korean picture to bag the Palme d'Or, the highest honor at Cannes. Bin introduces to us Burning, which garnered rave reviews at the International Film Festival.
Lee Chang-dong's film received an average of 3.8 from the screen's jury of 10 critics, surpassing the 3.7 achieved by Marionettes' 2016 comedy drama Tony Erdmann. Out of the 10 critics, 8 gave Burning a perfect 4 stars, with the other 2 handed it a high 3. Burning is the only Korean film to ever vie for the Palme d'Or, competing with 19 others in the top category at this year's Cannes Film Festival. The mystery drama depicts the desires, helplessness, and anger felt by the younger generation, and stars Yoo Ah-in, Steven Yeun, and Jeon Jong-seo. The movie is based on Japanese author Haruki Murakami's short story, Barn Burning, with the setting changed from Japan to Korea. Lee Chang-dong remains true to the original story in the first half of the 2.5-hour film, but strays from the source material later to embrace more genre elements as well. Burning, Lee's 6th feature, had its premiere at the Cannes Film Festival on Wednesday night. It went on general release in Korea on Thursday. Bin, Arirang News.
Time to turn to Michelle Bach at the Weather Center for the updates you need. Michelle, I hear you have some good news to brighten up the weekend.
That's right, Daniel. After 4 days of heavy downpours, the rain has started to clear up. The eastern regions will get a bit of more rain until tonight, but tomorrow we get to enjoy our Saturday afternoon under nice sunshine. Now, meanwhile, the rain system has moved over to the east, lingering over on Japan tomorrow. Saturday will be as refreshing as today, with Seoul waking up to a chilly reading at 12 degrees Celsius, with Gwangju and Busan a little warmer at 17 and 14 degrees respectively. In the afternoon, temperatures over in Seoul will peak up to 25 degrees, while Daegu and Gwangju will hit up to 20 and 17 degrees. In fact, the favorable weather is expected for the start of next week as well, which is perfect since we have another extra day off on Tuesday, which is Buddha's birthday. Although it's very warm during the day, remember that the temperature will be much lower in the mornings and nights. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we could pack into tonight's edition of Arirang News Center. Wherever you may be tuning in from, thank you for watching.